Welcome. I definitely haven't lost my mind. As you can see, I have spent some time and painstakingly put this together for you. Now, I also spent a lot of printer ink on it, so if you are not subscribed, please subscribe because it was quite expensive. But today, we are going to be going through Secret of the Mimic and all of my theories and speculative theories, and I also want to get your thoughts on it. So this might be a long one, and you might want to grab a little snack or a drink, like those little Owala energy drinks that everybody's been drinking. I know there's a cotton candy one, and I really want to try it, but I'm not allowed to have caffeine. It makes me a little... We're not going to talk about it, but it makes me a little crazy, and I really want to know what it tastes like. So if you have had it or you are able to drink caffeine, please, please, please put it in the comments below what it tastes like. Let me live vicariously through you. I beg of you. I love cotton candy, please. But with that said, let's solve Secret of the Mimic. Now, we are going to start our story over at Murray's Costume Manor, MCM, represented right here by Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. Now, fun fact, I actually auditioned to be an Oompa Loompa in the Willy Wonka musical in my local community theater. I was rejected, but that's okay, because now I'm here doing this. Anyway, we're going to start at MCM, which was founded by Edwin Sr. Now, it could have been founded by Edwin Sr., or Senior, but really it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in this case is that it was passed down to Edwin Jr. from Edwin Sr., and it's been a family business. Now, it could have been much older, but I'm going to be honest, I really don't care, and I don't see what that would impact, so I don't even care to dig into it, so we're just gonna go with it. Now, Murray's Costume Manor specialized in mascot costumes. I mean, it's kind of in the name, Murray's Costume Manor. This was until Edwin Jr. took over. Now, Edwin Jr. actually met his soon-to-be wife, Fiona, while working under Edwin Sr. And they met, they started dating, they fell in love.
Told that I was loved.
They fell in love, and she pushed him to follow his dreams, do what he always wanted to do with the company, which was make inventions.
You could change anything you wanted. What would it be?
Maybe rebrand? We could start making some of my inventions for real.
Now, some of these inventions were the magic coat rack, the Mushman music machine. I'm pretty sure it's actually Mycelium Men, but I love calling them Mushmen. I just feel like that's more fun, so we're gonna call them Mushmen. And the Stay Up Latte. Those are just to name a few. There were others like just cereal, and more importantly, the biggest one being the Cleanovac, which was like a little... It's like if you took, if you guys had those R2-D2s that you could go, hey R2, dance for me, and it would just start... If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's like if you took that and like mixed it with a Roomba. Now, when Edwin and Fiona first met, they actually met working on a project, the Helpy Bots. Now, these helpful bots are those little bots that you can find around MCM. They kind of look like the car salesman things, the things outside that like, he, creepily albeit, asked Fiona to use her voice for the project, and she agreed, for some reason.
Can I borrow your voice for a project?
I don't even know you.
I don't know, if I just started working somewhere and some guy came up to me and was like, hey, let me use your voice for a project, I think I'd pepper spray him, honestly. But anyway, she agrees, and they make the helpful bots together. Now, once he owns the company and she's inspiring him and everything is going great, he realizes he cannot live without her. So he proposes to her with the helpful bots, which I also think is kind of weird because like he doesn't know when she's gonna check the helpful bot. So like she could just like come running up to him being like, yes, yes, 1,000,000 times yes. And he's just like, what are you? Oh yeah, that's right, I proposed. I wasn't sure. Like it could be like 3 weeks later until she sees it. Is that just me that thinks that's weird? Granted, I'm not one to talk. I actually made my husband propose to me like 3 times because I'm picky. But anyway, they get married and they have a cute little wedding. I actually love their wedding photo. I think they did Fiona a little bit dirty with some of her other photos. I think she looks so cute in the wedding photo. But this is FNaF. You are not allowed to be happy. So Fiona dies. Now, we know that Fiona dies at Fallfest due to a couple of things. One of those being the tape that she actually says, "Hey, I'm going to Fallfest."
I have to go help the Fallfest crew.
And another text log that we find where an employee is saying, "I heard Fiona's voice." This is talking about the robots, it's not actually Fiona. "I heard Fiona's voice. Did Edwin lie? I never trusted them." This basically tells us that everyone has been told the story, Fiona dies at Fallfest, and we actually know a little bit about Fallfest. Now, in moon.exe, we can actually find a married couple statue, and under the woman, there is a Fallfest snow globe. Now, the other big thing with it is that that statue is burned, so that implies a fire. Alongside that, we also have seen Fallfest in a couple other games. Now, it was first introduced to us in The Curse of Dreadbear. It's pretty easy to identify. It's got a weird looking sky. I mean, in The Curse of Dreadbear, there's also like a weird like Frankenfreddy, like that's just on you. That's like a whole other thing. I'm not even touching that. I don't know. But Fallfest is just your typical fall carnival. If you've ever been to like a county fair or something like that, it's pretty similar, just Fazbear branded. But the one interesting thing is it ends in a fire. We've been hinted at this Fallfest fire for so long. So we know that she does die in a fire. But another interesting thing about Fallfest is I personally don't believe it was ever made by Fazbear. I actually think it was an MCM event. If we look at our friend Big Top here, I believe that this was Big Top's annual festival. We can see in the Big Top showroom, I mean, obviously he is like a carnival master or like a circus master kind of dude. I mean, the name's literally Big Top. Big Top. Not like Big Hat. Not like Big Hat, because that's what my husband thought it meant. Big Top, like a big top tent. So if we look in his showroom, it looks like a carnival. And alongside that, we also have those posters that show us Big Top's annual carnival or whatever, festival, carnival, something like that. You saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Now, another thing that's interesting with Big Top is that in moon.exe, we actually give him the Fallfest ticket, and he is the one who tells us this is where the sun disappeared, implying that he was there. So I believe that Big Top was at this festival and that originally Fallfest was Big Top's annual carnival festival, whatever it was called. Now, I'm about to say something that might be controversial. I don't know how you say that word. I'm about to say something that people might not agree with. In the Fallfest minigames that we play in Help Wanted 1 and Help Wanted 2, I noticed there was something weird. Springtrap. Why is Springtrap there? Now, another weird thing that I noticed, stick with me, we're gonna be jumping over the place a little bit here. In Help Wanted 2, we finally learned the death order. Contrary to what it shows us, which is like Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, Freddy, Golden Freddy Puppet or something like that. I know it has Chica first and Puppet last. The others are irrelevant. It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter. Now, there's a great Reddit post breaking it down far better than I ever will be able to. I will link it in the description so you can check it out. But basically, that death order is not correct. We actually reverse it. Now, if we reverse it, that gives us the Puppet first and Chica last. And the way that we got to this was by using some other clues that we had in Security Breach, like the colored balloons, lining up with the death order. Again, I'm not going to go super into depth in it. It's not my theory. I just agree with it. So check it out in the Reddit link below, okay? So with that, it gives us that Charlie was first, but Chica was last. But wait, we thought Chica was first. Because what about that line? I was the first. I have seen everything.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
Why did we get that line if she wasn't the first? Well, I do believe, I'm just going to say it straight up here, I'm going to address it at the end as well. I think we can all agree that a lot more than one thing has been retconned, all right? I'm calling you out on it, Scott, okay? It's not just one retcon anymore. Maybe it was when you made that little post, but right now, it is definitely not just one retcon, all right? We can all agree on it. We all know it. Let's just clear the air. We've got to retroactively look at the old games because things just don't line up anymore. Okay? Things just don't line up anymore, okay? But what I'm getting at here is that because they did change the death order, and that was a pretty recent installment, that was Help Wanted 2. That's pretty new. They've changed the game. Security breach is when I draw the line if things were really changing, okay? We could maybe go into Help Wanted 1, but security breach for sure. But if we go over to Help Wanted 2, where we changed the death order of what we originally thought, it tells us Chica was last. But that doesn't make sense with her voice line. Except, maybe it does. If Springtrap, aka Afton, was at Fallfest, and Fiona just happened to magically die at Fallfest, and we do know that Fiona is who created, or designed, rather, Chica. Maybe Chica was still the first. Maybe Chica was still the first. And I know what you might be thinking, but what motive? Why would he well, okay, I mean, A, what motive have we really had for anything? The dude's just a psychopath, but if we really want to get into it, it would make sense. He is a businessman. He's not very creative. He has jealousy tendencies, especially towards Henry Emily, who we know was creative. That could extend over into Fiona as well. So she is pretty creative. She does all the designs. He could be jealous of that. He could be jealous of the Murrays in general. I mean, they were building an empire. They were doing what Fazbear ends up doing later. So maybe he saw that, and that's what motivated him to take over this business and basically steal Edwin's life. But stick around for the rest of the video because I'm going to be going way deeper into the Fiona-Afton connection that is possibly there, okay? I'm just going to leave it at that for now. We'll get into it later, okay? Now, Fiona's death is one of the many things that really solidifies that the books are not canon. I'm really saying this for all of you in my comments that are going,
David died because he got hit by a car when he was throwing his ball in the road.
yes, that is how he dies in the books. But this game has established that these books are not canon. Now, maybe we can look to them for parallels, but they are not canon, okay? If they were somehow still canon, that would mean that Fiona was pregnant and then died giving childbirth and just also happened to be at Fallfest, which maybe, but like, why? But there's a couple other differences that definitely show us that the books are not canon. First of them being, in the books, Edwin, he actually lives in a factory. He does not have a house. He converts a second floor of his factory into being a living space for him and David. Now, another big difference is actually in our mimic. Okay, so in the books, the mimic doesn't have legs. The legs get added on later by one of the Fazbear crew that go in and think they have to fix something. They don't know what they're doing, and so they fix the mimic, and then it kills them all. Fun. But another big thing is, in the books, the mimic can't talk. It actually communicates with sign language. Like, what ends up tripping up Edwin and making him destroy the mimic isn't him mimicking David by voice, it's him doing a sign that David taught him to say he wants ice cream, because the mimic eats ice cream, I guess. It's like that. So that's what he does, and then Edwin sees that and he's like, and beats him up. Now, in the games, obviously, Edwin says, stop talking like him. Yeah. So it is different in the books versus games for that as well. Another small detail, but I think it actually becomes very relevant in a second, and we're gonna get into it later, is that David has heterochromia. In the books, he's just a brunette with brown eyes. In the games, he has one green eye and one blue eye, which we've actually seen before. Like I said, I'll be getting into it later. But I think with all of that, we can pretty definitively say that the books are not canon. So this brings us to our game version of the Mimic. which actually starts with M1. I am going to be giving an alternative version of events to what I see most popular in the community currently. I'd like you to stick with me and listen to my reasoning here so we don't become an echo chamber of one theory. Contrary to popular belief, I do not believe that M1 was created specifically to be a babysitter for David. I believe that M1 was a repurposed endoskeleton that was then used to be a babysitter for David. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all being, David already had a babysitter. In the Fallfest note that we get from Fiona saying she's going to Fallfest, she also mentions not to worry because his babysitter will watch him. Now his babysitter Trisha Okay guys, my printer actually ran out of ink on this one, so I apologize. But that means you have to subscribe because I need to get more ink for my next video, which is gonna be Kingdom Hearts. I've already got my costume for it too. And let me tell you, it looks fabulous. But I can't make the video without ink, and I need you to subscribe so I can buy more ink. David's babysitter, Trisha. Now, if he already had a perfectly fine human babysitter, why did he need a robot one? Well, my guess is that it was actually due to financial trouble happening with MCM. I think Edwin was going broke. He couldn't pay the babysitter anymore. In the Sleepy Moon basement, we actually find a note or a little memo that shows us the trajectory of MCM's stock or value or something like that, that shows that it was trending downward long before David died. So I believe upon Fiona's death, Edwin could have probably gotten a little, and they start running into money trouble and he needs to make up funds wherever he can. One of those being the babysitter. Now, here's why I do not believe that M1 was created specifically to be David's babysitter. Let's run with they're in financial trouble and this is why he's creating this, or using this endoskeleton rather. If they are in financial trouble, Edwin doesn't have a lot of resources. Why would M1, under the presumption of being just a babysitter, why would M1 need to be able to shapeshift and change sizes and mimic anything just to be a babysitter? Why would it need to be able to do that and have that functionality? Now, in the theater, I think we even see this. One of the things that Edwin says is that he replaces all cast and crew. He talks about actors, directors, puppeteers, script writers. We know how everything is replaced except actors. Now, I have posted a short on this before and I did get some comments that were like,
But Denari, he's just talking about the puppets.
If he's just talking about the puppets, I want to point out something huge in the theater. In the backstage theater, we can actually see rows and lines of the mascot costumes. Why would these need to be backstage if they're not being used in the production? But if they are being used in the production, but he's not using actors or any humans, what would wear them? M1 would wear them. Now, again, if this is just an endoskeleton that is purely made to wear mascot costumes, it's gonna probably look a little bit creepy underneath. And I think this is part of the reason that we get the audio log where David says,
It's scary.
Why does it look like that? Scary.
Now, with David being scared of the endoskeleton, we know that later on he draws pictures of him with the endoskeleton. One little anecdotal thing I want to put in here is I don't know how easy it would be to get over a fear of an endoskeleton like that. Granted, when I was younger, I had some crazy fears that just did not go away. Like when I was like 6 or so, I was deathly afraid of E.T. And when we would have the CD, for the 11% of you that are under 18, the CDs, they're like these little discs, okay? And they have like a little shiny rainbow on the back of them, and you would put them in a CD player, and you'd press play, and then you would take your remote and actually start the movie or show. But except, unlike, Netflix and things like that, it was just one movie or one show. So you'd have these huge CD cases, and you'd flex on everyone, all your friends and family, by having huge CD cases. Now, when you would play a movie, you would actually push play, and it would be like when you go to the movie theaters, if you kids do that these days, where it would play ads before the movie. And one of those ads was E.T. And I was terrified of E.T. I was terrified of E.T. Did not like aliens. And every time that ad would come on, I would run and hide in the pantry and start crying. I would start bawling, crying in the pantry. My mom watches my videos. I don't know if she'll see this. Mom, hopefully you're watching this video. You can comment down below and confirm that I cried in the pantry. Like, I was scared of E.T. It was not good. It was not good. So I mean, granted, I was a 6-7-year-old and I'm a little bit of a pansy, but David was like 5 and like scared of the set. I don't know. Anyway, so we've got that audio log. But we've also got Father Edwin saying, don't worry, it's gonna wear mascot costumes. You won't see it naked, don't worry.
It won't always look like this. It'll wear fun costumes.
Now, what happens next is I believe that Edwin hears that Fiona voice. In the Tiger Rock basement, we can actually see an audio log tape that has the numbers 4625 on it, contrary to all of the other audio log tapes, which just say 1, 2, 3, 4. This 4625, which is a number we've seen before. We actually got that number in the Help Wanted 2 Mimic update. It was the code that unlocked MXES. But even more interestingly, it's actually a Windows error code that says invalid login. I thought that was a fun little detail there. He hears his wife's voice, and I believe this inspired him. Now, I do not believe this is possession. At first, I did think it was possession, but upon looking into it further, I do not believe it is possession. I actually really like a recent theory that came out by John FNaF, or FNaF John, I'm not sure which is the surname and forename, where he says that the mushmen, or mycelium men, mushmen, I'm sticking with it, are what hear Fiona saying that during the actual party that happened a long, long time ago, and like mycelium, they are a big spore network, and that is what he heard, is he heard it echoing it back. Now, I like that theory. I think it's good. Go check it out. Regardless of that, he hears his wife's voice. I believe this is what inspires Edwin to build a bigger computer to house all of her data. Basically, to make a custom AI chatbot. Do not tell me that it wouldn't inspire you, okay? Don't tell me that it wouldn't inspire you, because I know you are lying. I know you are lying if you say you have not used ChatGPT or Character AI to talk to your waifus, okay? We're all victims. I've been a victim, okay? I had a little Crollo Lucifer bot. We're not gonna talk about it, okay? I know you're lying. Edwin rolls with this. And I believe what he first tries to do is upload Fiona's memories and data, all the Helpy recordings, all the home tapes, all of that into M1, and it doesn't work. Now, the reason I believe this is because we get a note in the Sleepy Moon basement, which this will become relevant later, that says, "We were expecting, there were complications. Consciousness was lost for an undetermined time. Once I woke, we were all together and happy, a family. But something was different. I felt wrong somehow. Was I me? I would never sleep again. Corrupted files suspected. Please advise." I believe that this memory error is actually from M1 trying to start becoming Fiona, and it was too much for M1 to handle. It didn't have a strong enough processor or core inputted into it where it could handle this onslaught of information, which is why I believe Edwin creates the F10N4 computer. You know, when I want to feel cool, I make Shirley Temples with LaCroix and grenadine, because I don't drink. Contrary to what some of you might believe, I don't drink. So I make this to make myself feel cooler. It also has LaCroix instead of Sprite because I am also afraid of drinking soda. Anyway, this is why I believe that the F10 computer was originally created. I think there's also a note that supports this where it says that it heard Fiona's voice specifically down in research and development. Now, the reason that I think that this is important is because the other theory is that F10 was created to house M1 when Edwin decided that he was going to program M2. Now, the reason I don't think this works is because this note shows us this is the first time they've heard Fiona's voice. And we know with M1 was actually attending admin parties. This would not be a shock to anybody if they already knew about M1's existence and her literally attending birthday parties as Fiona. So it shows us that F10's creation has to happen far before David's 5th birthday party. Here is where I'm going to get into a theory that a lot of the community does not agree with currently. I believe there are 2 endoskeletons. I have established what I think M1 was and what F10 was, so I want to get more in detail on M2 now. I believe M2 was supposed to be an advanced endoskeleton that was able to house the F10 program. So my understanding of the community consensus, at least what I see echoed the most online, is that M1 was created to babysit David. David dies, and so Edwin creates the F10 machine to upload M1's code into, and then copies that code back into the M1 endoskeleton and renames it M2, specifically to be David. My proposed timeline is Edwin runs out of money, he can't pay the babysitter, he reuses an endo from the theater. This endo starts mimicking his wife, and he gets inspired and tries to copy his wife into it. That doesn't work, so he creates a bigger computer to house all of the information of his wife. Think of F10 almost as like a database, if you will, which would actually line up with the MXES program. F10 houses all of this information, and he wants his wife, his robo-wife. So he starts creating the M2 endoskeleton, a bigger, better endoskeleton that would be able to house all of this information. I believe F10 was getting a bit impatient, if you will, and she starts getting concerned for David. M1 is now having issues. I mean, we saw that corrupted file note. Alongside that, M1 is having issues because the parts it was made up of are breaking. If we remember those inventions that I talked about earlier, the magic coat rack, the mushman, and the stay-up latte, those are the parts that actually made up M1. Magic coat rack giving the ability to change shapes and size. The mushman, the ability to copy and mimic and talk. And the stay-up latte, the ability to learn and evolve as it goes. But we get return letters showing that these parts are all breaking. These are all the parts that were making up M1, so M1, by proxy, should be breaking as well. And this is why I believe the Cradle note was sent. This is F10 saying, who's watching David? You either need to finish me, M2, or you need to lock that thing up. Why not just decommission it? Why not just turn it off? I personally believe there isn't a way to turn it off. Part of this reason being, we know that at the end of the game, Edwin is fully done and pissed off, and he wants to write off all these AI. Why doesn't he just turn them off? Even whenever he beats M2 to a puddle, M2 is able to still be okay and repair itself. I don't think he created these with a on and off system. I do believe he builds the Cradle, and he builds M2, and F10 is put into M2. This is why M2 is a copy of the F10 code. I believe that the endo we see in the home tapes is M2. And I'm talking about an endoskeleton, the M2 endoskeleton. I am not talking about programs. It is a copy of the F10 program in a second version of a mimic endoskeleton. We even see this in some blueprints that we get. In the Tiger Rock basement, we can see concepts, and we can also see blueprints. Now, these are fully fleshed out blueprints, and they show 2 different endoskeletons. Now, I have had some people saying, well, it's just showing how it stretches and expands. But if you look closer at the pelvic area or the arm area, you can see that they are, at their core, a different endoskeleton. He gets his wife back, he's got his family again, he's integrating her back into his life with his co-workers, friends, family, except everything isn't good yet. His business is still failing, and he needs something big. He needs a big break again, something like the Cleanovac, to really set him up again. So I believe he tries copying M2. Except he does not want to give everybody his wife. So he's trying to copy this same type of program, something that could mimic anybody. We had, in the beginning, M1 mimicking certain characters, acting as certain characters, but what if you could mimic anything? Now, this is where I believe the "there's been a leak" note comes in.
There's a leak. Someone told them about M2. Well, they can't have it. Every copy has failed. I don't even know why it worked the first time.
He is speaking about this as if it were a business invention. If M2 was created specifically to be David, I feel like this would be a little bit different, and it would be like, well, they can't have him. But he says they can't have it, showing that this is a robot. Now, I think this is why we get all of the different endoskeletons that we see in the basement. This is him trying to get it to work. But why doesn't it work, you might ask? I think it doesn't work because he doesn't have enough data. With F10, the reason it worked is because it was a copy of Fiona's database. I mean, think about it. Our brains are basically big fleshy computers. He made a remote brain. But if he doesn't have enough information, there's nothing for it to latch onto and copy. So this is why I believe he made MXES, Mechanical X-Form Experimental Storage. I understand a lot of people think that MXES is Cradle. I do not agree with that, and I will get into what the Cradle is in a second, but I want us to talk about MXES first. I don't think I have a picture for MXES up here. Okay, you're gonna have to deal with this. I'm out of ink, so I can't print any more photos. MXES. One weird thing when we actually look at MXES in Secret of the Mimic is that there are two. There is not just one, and it's also not the computer that we see in Ruin, because that is F10 in this case. But there are still MXES machines, and the MXES rooms, I'll call them, look identical. If you see, it's walking down a hallway into a room that is filled with surveillance cameras, all feeding into a computer. I believe that this is surveillance footage that Edwin was collecting to be able to program into his M2 creation to sell for retail. He's gathering as much human data as he can to feed it into these robots to allow them to mimic anybody, any personality, anybody that walks into MCM, they're getting copied. We even get notes from employees saying that they feel like they're always being watched, because they are. So then, what is the Cradle? Well, I believe that the Cradle is a containment system that was used to house M1. We already know that M1 was failing. He might have not had a way to shut it off, and he needed a way to contain it. And I believe we see it in the game in the Sleepy Moon basement. If we look in that basement, it looks almost out of place. There is nothing really to do there other than getting a collectible. There's also caged areas that house things, almost like mini jail cells. The other big thing with it is, while there is a moon crashed into the middle of it, we can see that there was large-scale construction going on around it. For what? And finally, we get the night shift message that tells us that there was around-the-clock work being done down here. Now, this isn't an area that looks like it's made for customers or consumers to come down here and see. This is something internal, so I believe it was built to house M1. Again, the M1 endoskeleton being the first theater mimic that starts breaking down once Edwin uploads Fiona's data, and also breaking from its components. It gets locked in the basement, and M2, the second endoskeleton that successfully is a copy of the F10 code, is now David's mother. One of the biggest reasons I believe that it is M1 specifically is because this note references David when he is alive. When he is alive. This is not talking about an M2 David. This is talking about David, the human boy, still living, still breathing, and it's also referencing finishing M2, which kind of only leaves us with M1 being the culprit. With the Cradle housing M1, I think that tells us who Sleepy Moon is. M1.
But wait, Denari.
You may say.
Sleepy Moon is actually the employee, and he's just possessing the suit.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more. So if we actually look at the concept of the employee being the one possessing the suit, there's a couple of issues. First of all, the employee, his note even says night shift. If he is on a night shift, that would imply there is a day shift coming to relieve him soon. And if we look in the basement, we can see that there is a kitchen set up. If he really was starving, I'm sure there are other workers' food down there that he could eat. Another big issue is we don't find a body. In the rest of this game, when the game wants us to see a body, we see it. It has not been shy about it. I mean, heck, there's even one like hanging from the rafters. Like, they're not shy about it in this game. So if they wanted us to find a body, we would find something. You might be saying,
But Denari, Sleepy Moon's actually just M2.
Let's actually talk about that. One of the biggest things is the mechanical noises. Now, if we actually listen to it, we can hear that Sleepy Moon versus M2's other noises do not sound the same. Now, I have heard some theories on what this mechanical noise in Sleepy Moon is. Let's debunk them. The first one being that it is a pair of keys that we are hearing. So I grabbed my keys. Let's try it. Employee keys. I'll really shake them too. Lullaby and goodnight. I don't think it's keys. Granted, my keys are a little weird. I've got some fuzzy bits on them and a Donald Duck thing, but you can get the gist with it. Now, for me to even create that much noise, I had to be shaking it. Most employee keys are gonna be hooked onto their belt, and it's not gonna make nearly as much noise. Like, this is me walking. I'll even walk weirdly like Moon does, with the keys just at my hip. I'm not even sure if you can hear them, but I do have some janglies on here. Like, it should make noise. Now, the second thing I've heard is,
But Denari, it's just the moon costume bells jingling, and there's just a dead body in it.
so I have bells. I'm gonna put these, I'm just gonna hold them right here and just walk normally, because that's where they are on the moon suit. This is me walking normally. Maybe you can hear them a little bit. I'm gonna walk like Moon now. Do it again. Okay. Lullaby and goodnight. I'm really trying to get it to make noise. I think when we actually compare those noises to the Sleepy Moon audio, we can hear that it has definitely more of a mechanical gear clanking noise to it. But before we get to Sleepy Moon, what happens between M1 being trapped there to Sleepy Moon existing? Well, we've actually heard the story before from Candy Cadet, and I will let him tell it because he always does it best.
Story about a mother and her little boy who lived alone in a cabin in the dark woods. There was a monster in the woods, but the mother caught it and kept it locked in the basement. The monster always made scary noises at night, but the mother would tell the boy not to worry because it could never get out. Then she would sing the boy a lullaby to sleep. One day, the monster stopped prowling and instead listened and learned the lullaby. Next day, when Mother went out to find food, the monster sang the lullaby from the basement. The little boy heard the lullaby and opened the door.
Now, I think this story actually perfectly explains David's death. Some of you might go on,
But Denari, that's just talking about Cassie and Ruin.
it can be used to explain Cassie as well. I think the story actually fits far better with the story we get in Secret of the Mimic. Plus, we know that Ruin was created to kind of counteract the damage that Security Breach did, meaning that the story should be lining up. One of the biggest pieces of evidence, though, actually comes from Moon.exe. In Candy Cadet's story, you should have heard that he referred to the Dark Woods. Now, in Moon.exe, we actually see an area called the Dark Forest. Now, in this dark forest, you can see that these trees have faces on them, and we actually see these exact same trees in the hallway leading up to the Storytime showroom. So if we take the Storytime showroom, Moon.exe, and Candy Cadet's story and piece it all together, what do we get? Well, let's start with David. We can see in the Storytime showroom, he has this little cubby area that he likes to hang out in. And in this area, the present that we get is the Starlight Starbright Nightlight that is actually used to power the elevator that goes down from the moon basement. So let's use Candy Cadet's story. We know there's the dark forest going into the Storytime showroom. Let's say he's living in the dark forest and he hears the monster in the basement singing his mom's lullaby. He thinks, oh, maybe it's Mom. Mama's calling me. I'm gonna go get her. So he follows that voice down to the basement, which is directly under him, and lets out M1. Now, I don't think M1 maliciously has any intent towards him. I think what happens with M1 is complete malfunction. I don't think M1 just straight up kills him there. I think what happens is a little bit more nuanced. Him and M1, they want to hang out. It's his birthday. They want to have fun. You can kind of think of this as paralleling the books, the Mimic and David in the books. So they go back to hanging out in his Storytime showroom area, and they have a great idea. Why don't we play the show? Why don't we watch the show? Huh? Why don't we watch the show? So they go and they get ready to put on the show. M1 puts on the Sleepy Moon costume to entertain David, and David gets ready to watch the show. One of the things that we do find in this area, though, is the computers. And these computers tell us that the moon is damaged and the show shouldn't be started. All of the employees would know that you shouldn't start the show. So that's why I believe that it would be David and M1 that start it. They wouldn't have known any better. So they start the show and the moon malfunctions and falls. And with it falling, it crushes David and brings down M1 with it as well. So this is how we get M1 back in the basement, and we get David's ball collectible, which is the exact thing that he chased to his death in the books, in that basement as well. This is also why I believe that he haunts the theater. If we actually look when we go into the theater, that's the first place that we see him. The reason I believe it's the theater is because that's where he actually would have died. If you get crushed by something falling through the floor, you're not gonna die like right here, you would die in between those levels. This would also explain why we even see the Sleepy Moon costume down there. It's what fell down from above. I want to go on a tangent here and talk about David and what I actually believe Tiger Rock, him haunting Tiger Rock, what all that actually is. Now, I don't have a picture for Tiger Rock. Okay guys, you really need to subscribe so I can get more printer ink. There we go, they're great, Tony the Tiger. I don't fully believe that David is possessing Tiger Rock, at least not in the Tiger Rock basement. If we go into this basement and actually stick around for a little bit, we can hear that Tiger Rock emits M2 voice lines. Now you might be saying,
But Denari, Tiger Rock teleports around.
He does, but if we actually look at the animation that happens when he teleports, the like big flashing, those are called hallucinations in the game files. Now, what could be hallucinating though? Arnold, working a 36-hour shift. That is more than enough time to cause hallucinations. Well, you might be saying now,
But Denari, how would he hallucinate something that he's never seen before?
what if he has seen Tiger Rock? We can see in several places in MCM that Tiger Rock has its own candy bar, much like the Roxy root beer and things like that. This would mean that Tiger Rock is an established character in MCM, possibly even having its own characterization, its own brand. It wouldn't be unlikely for Arnold to have seen this character, given it's popular enough to have its own candy bar. But that begs the question, where is David / Tiger Rock through all of the other games? Well, I believe he is there. I just don't believe he's in Tiger Rock. So stick with me. I know, stick with me. In the theater, there is one odd detail that I just couldn't stop thinking about. If we look at the vanity mirrors, only one is lit up, and that one has a pig head on it. That alone isn't enough. That alone's nothing. But I start thinking, okay, what's our, modern day pig character? Pig Patch. And if we look at Pig Patch actually has the same exact heterochromia that David does, a change that was specifically created for this game. But okay, you say. That's still not enough for me. That's still not enough for me. Pig Patch is the only mediocre melody that has come back in the recent games. And if you are a believer in God David and everybody's a robot, I actually have a little bit more evidence that I will be getting into later that has to do with security breach and the arcade tables. I do believe that David is still in the modern franchise, not as Tiger Rock. I think that's how they've retroactively fitted him in. But anyway, David is dead now. Edwin is heartbroken. He can't catch a break. Everybody's dying around him. Maybe he's got like some bad juju or something. So he relies on his robo-wife to console him. And his robo-wife has a great idea. Just make another. You replaced me, just replace him. That's no big deal. Edwin doesn't want to. He's just done with this whole thing. He's done with it. He just wants to live his life out. He's done. He says no, he shouldn't have even let a robot raise his kid in the first place. He's tired of it. But F10 in the M2 endoskeleton is relentless. And she just keeps telling him, just build another. You've got to try again. Build another. You've got to do it. You can do it. Build another. And eventually he says no. Stop talking like her. Stop being her. No, I'm done.
It is me. I'm Fiona.
Stop talking like her. You're not her. I never want to hear or even think about you ever again. Ever!
Now, being a robot, she listens. She stops talking like her, and instead it now starts talking like David, because all it wants to do is make Edwin happy. So I believe if we take the audio log where he's saying stop talking like her, and the audio log where he says stop talking like David, they are part of the same conversation. This is him progressively getting more and more angry. I mean, we've seen him deal with the death of his kid, the death of his wife, the death of his company, the death of his dad. This is actual anger. And he seems like somebody that would need to be built up to this anger. So this is now when we get the audio log of him destroying M2 and just wailing on it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Stop. You're not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
I got a little into that. Okay, sorry. But Edwin, in rage, now destroys M2, breaking his legs, destroying him, saying he's sorry, he'll fix him. But that's not the end of M2. M2 actually repairs himself and comes back with a vengeance, now mimicking Edwin. There is an explosion in Edwin's office. Whether it's caused by Edwin or M2, I personally am unsure. But this explosion harms Edwin, actually hurting his own legs. Talk about karma.
Karma's a bitch. I should've known better.
And M2 is now neglecting Edwin the same way that Edwin neglected M2. But does Edwin die? I don't think so. Now, there's a couple of reasons I don't think so. One of those being the books. In the books, he doesn't die. Now, again, alone, the books are not enough evidence. I'm using them as a parallel. I'm thinking about it from a storytelling mechanic. So if we actually look at his office, we don't find his body anywhere. Similar to my logic with the moon, I believe we would find Edwin's body if they wanted us to find it, and we don't. With Edwin, it's unlikely that anybody would move his body or do anything with it. I mean, he doesn't have any friends or family or even workers left. Nobody would come looking for him. So I believe he is pushed out by M2. And he goes into hiding only to return later. I think that's what we're getting set up for, a same kind of arc that we see in the novels now coming into the games. So I wouldn't be surprised if Edwin does come back. But the most important thing is he is gone from Secret of the Mimic. Now, another big thing is what happens between Edwin's death and us playing the game. We know that David dies in 1975, and we know that we're playing the game in 1979. That's 4 years in between these. I think we could argue that the events after David's death, like M1 saying build another, him slowly breaking down, we could maybe chalk that up to a year. I couldn't chalk that up to any more than that. The other thing is we can see that the other teams that we find, they are Team 12. Now in the books, it's one team a month that gets sent in, so we could probably give that another year. But that still leaves us with 2 years remaining. What happens during those 2 years? Well, I actually believe that this is when M2 starts mimicking Edwin to everybody, starts running the business, or trying to. we can see in the logs that Edwin starts acting weird. His employees questioned him on some decisions and they just immediately get fired. Now, granted, he was angry that some of his employees stole Fiona's work or his work and was selling them off. But in this case, somebody gets fired for simply questioning a decision. This is M2 not wanting to get found out. I think this is when he's trying to hone in on his Edwin identity, and this is how he has so much time to make all those proto-mimics that we see at the end of Ending 2. I want to go back to something that we find in Edwin's office. This is, I think, one of the biggest questions, at least for me, from this game. The puppet designs. We know this puppet character. It's been in the game since FNaF 2. One of the interesting things with these puppet blueprints is where we find them. We actually find them on Edwin's personal computer in his home. I think that matters because it tells me this was a personal project. My thought is these puppet blueprints were supposed to be another babysitter for David. He's got his wife back in M2 and M1 isn't working anymore, so he needs something else to watch the kid. Maybe the puppet. That's exactly what the puppet did whenever it watched over Charlie. It was meant to protect her, to watch her, to guide her. Granted, it didn't work, but that also follows Edwin's other inventions. They never work, kind of like Gyro and DuckTales if you've seen that. But the puppet does get built by Henry. I believe Henry finds these blueprints and builds the version of the puppet that we know. This puppet, though, has some parallels to what we even see with the Mimic. Both are tasked with watching over a child, and both fail. I think this could also further explain the puppet's influence on the Pizzaplex. We can see in Security Breach that there are Nightmarion plushes hidden everywhere, alongside the staff bots that are also dressed up like Nightmarion. And not to mention, in the arcade machines, we can see wires coming out the top of them that look like the puppet's arms. The puppet has a presence here, and maybe that's because the Mimic virus was also in the puppet because Henry stole that from Edwin. But this leaves us to one of the most important questions. What happens between Secret of the Mimic and Security Breach / Ruin / Help Wanted 2, I mean, basically through all of the games? This is the earliest game we have in the franchise that's changed everything we knew about every other game in the franchise. So what happens in between? Well, we know half of it thanks to the games. It's now up to us to retroactively fit everything we've learned in Secret of the Mimic to all these games that we've grown up with. And yes, I mean grown up with. I am not talking to the 9-year-olds in my comments that are okay, I'm sorry. I got this one comment from somebody who was like, stop making theories, you're confusing my friend who's a new FNaF fan and you don't know what you're talking about. And I went and I looked on their channel profile because I'm a nosy queen, and I was actually a 8 or 9-year-old, and I wanted to comment back and say, brother, at least I was alive when the games came out. But that's rude, so I didn't do that. But this, I'm saying, the games that this is for we, people my age, we grew up with. Okay, I am not gatekeeping this to anybody, but if you are under the age of 13, I do not think you should be absorbed with this franchise to the point that you are commenting on a small FNaF creator's YouTube. Like, you're in too deep then. You're in way too deep. And like, this is a dark series. This is a dark game and story. I don't know what the kids are on these days. Like, I wasn't allowed that dark of media when I was that age. I'm not gonna allow my kids that dark of media when they're that age. I feel like that messes with the psyche. I don't know. Anyway, I believe what happens in between is gonna heavily based on which ending you believe is canon. This is gonna be going over why I believe, and I am a preacher of, ending 3 is canon. And we're gonna be doing this by partially process of elimination and partially just evidence from the game. So we can start with ending 1. The ending where you just give over the data diver, you know, you go on your merry way and the Mimic gets you. I think we can all agree that this ending is not canon. I mean, first of all, It ends at 5 a.m. And while it is Five Nights at Freddy's and it's not Five Nights anymore, you bet your horses we're still ending at 6 a.m., okay? But now, the ending that most people believe is canon, at least from the consensus I've seen online, is ending 2, the parachute ending. Now, I have a couple of issues with this ending being canon, and the biggest one being the fire. This fire happens when we run Cradle.exe, and I think that shows us that Cradle isn't working. So that Cradle program, like I went over before, the Cradle computer, I believe is the Sleepy Moon basement. What happened to the Sleepy Moon basement? It got a moon head in it, okay? There's some issues there. So I don't believe it is working as intended, and I think that's what causes the fire. The biggest issue with this fire is what all burns down. So we can see it's causing a system-wide fire. There are fires in MCM, there's fires in the mansion. The fire is spreading. Fire spread is on. You guys ever play Minecraft like with a group of friends and like you haven't played Minecraft before and you didn't know that like fire spread was a thing, and then you just wanted to go like burn some trees and you didn't realize that it was going to spread to everything around it, and then you ended up burning down everyone's houses, and then everyone got really mad at you, and then you don't play games with them anymore. Just me? Okay. But anyway, fire spread is on, and what burns down with it? Well, the tunnels. And what's in the tunnels? The F10 machine that we know later gets rebranded into MXES. Now, alongside that, one of the issues that I have is that this would actually burn down the MXES computers in rooms. Now, granted, maybe you could argue that a circuit board or something could survive and the data could be extracted from it, but I do find that a little bit difficult given the size of that fire. If those computers, became ash, how would somebody get the mechanical X-form experimental storage name off of those computers to then even put on the F10 machine? So say the F10 machine survives the fire, you would still need to find that name, specifically that name, to be able to put it on that computer. But the biggest issue I have is this tree. This tree is very specifically different from all of the other trees in this scene. They are all just your typical pine trees, I think is what they are, while this one looks closer to like an oak or something like that. But we have seen this tree before, and we specifically see this same kind of tree layout in FNaF 4. Again, leading me to believe this could be where William Afton lives, and well, in the parachute ending 2, this tree is on fire. That fire is spreading to the tree. It's not like contained to just the house in MCM, like the tree is on fire as well. So how would that tree burn down but then still be present in FNaF 4? And then not to mention the FNaF 4 room, which I don't think it's the exact room because they could have made it look way more exact, but it is definitely inspired. It is 100% inspired, and you cannot tell me that it's not meant to evoke the same feelings as seeing the FNaF 4 room. So with that, I believe that ending 3 is canon. But no, I hear you. Before you even start typing.
But Denari, you gotta complete the game to get the Tiger Rock plush before you can even get the Moon.exe ending.
And you're right. You're totally right. But that's not new for this franchise. We had to do that in the book the week before, which was actually in production at the same time as this game. And in the week before, you have to complete that book before you can get the canon ending of the book. And that is a confirmed canon ending because it's talking about the week before FNaF 1, which is a story that we already know. Plus, with the tunnels and the power sources and the layout of that basement tunnel area we go into, it could line up perfectly with sister location. So it's not like William is, moving to the suburbs and digging a hole under his house. He's just acquired some land that already had tunnels underneath, which gives him the easy access tunnels to go to and from wherever. Again, he couldn't do this in ending 2 because in ending 2 we can see those tunnels actually collapsing. So it again leads me to believe that ending 3 is the canon. So in ending 3, Moon.exe, as we all know, it ends with our little repaired M2 turning into a little kitty baby David and going to sleep and deactivating. Now I say deactivating because we can see its eyes flicker and shut off, leading me to believe that it is deactivated, decommissioned, finally is turned off. But if ending 3 is canon, everything survives, we know that William Afton would move in and find this little boy robot. And William Afton being, oh, I never showed William Afton. Wait, maybe I did. I'm gonna show him again. William Afton finding this little kid robot, and William Afton's gonna do what any rational, normal, possibly sociopathic, possibly psychopathic, definitely psychopathic, definitely sociopathic person would do, and he is going to test the robot. He's gonna test the robot. Now, I believe this is what FNaF 4 actually is. In FNaF 4, I think whenever it first came out, everybody was under the assumption, oh my gosh, we're playing as Crying Child. And after the security logbook came out, it was revealed by showing Nightmare Fredbear that it is actually Michael Afton who is the player of the bedroom area of FNaF 4. Now, the mini games, those are Crying Child still. That's not, we're not going back to the theory that Mike is bite victim. Those are dark times, okay? So let's say this mimic robot, this little boy mimic robot, is getting put through tests where you see animatronics running down the hall at you, peeking out behind corners, scaring you, coming out from the closet scaring you, coming out from the bed scaring you. He's a mimic program. He's gonna mimic it. And what do we see him do in the mini games? Mimic it. So I think that also lines up there. But because that lines up, that would mean that M2 must be Michael Afton. Stay with me. I know you've all seen the God David video. I know we're all crying, God David. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. But Michael now, M2, is created in his father's image because, as we know, William Afton is a complete narcissist. Of course he's going to. And this, I believe, has been hinted that his children are not his. At least one of them is not his. The baby isn't mine. Something there, okay? I think it is possibly Michael, but we're gonna get into it more later. We're gonna get into more later. We'll get to the God David. What am I doing? So, as we know, Michael, he starts bullying his brother, Crying Child. He starts bullying his brother, and eventually this escalates to his brother dying, getting crushed by the Fredbear mouth. So after this happens, you know, he's just still doing his thing. And then eventually William disappears and leaves him instructions to go to sister location and find his sister Elizabeth. I don't have her on here either. Subscribe so I can get more ink, please. Elizabeth. So we do have Michael Afton going to find his sister Elizabeth, who is now possessing baby. We're not getting into it. You should know all this by now. If you don't, go watch some MatPat videos, get all caught up, and then come back to me. When Michael is in sister location, something unexpected happens. He gets scooped. He gets scooped. And Ennard, an amalgamation of all these animatronics, enters his body, and they're just like chilling out together. There is something weird with this though. Michael lives. Michael lives. He does not die from getting scooped. He doesn't die from a robot being inside of his body. He lives. Now, I am gonna go ahead and address it now. I'm gonna go ahead and address it now before you guys are in my comments saying,
Well, Denari, Michael's living 'cause of remnant.
or,
But Denari, he turns purple. He can't be a robot.
let's address it. All right, number one, remnant. So yes, he could be injected with remnant, but part of the issue here is you can't be both fueled by remnant and actively decaying. It kind of goes against what remnant does, at least from my research, because remnant does have healing properties. But even if we put that aside, we can put that aside because maybe that's just in the books. We'll put it aside. In the games, in one of the blueprints we find in FNaF 6, it tells us that remnant would be neutralized with overheating. But what would be overheating? What kind of metal is it? Well, in the Fourth Closet books, it is described as liquid mercury-like. So I just went ahead and took liquid mercury as a metal to compare to. We can obviously compare it against different metals, but because that's the description, that's just what I'm running with here. Liquid mercury has an overheating point of 674 degrees Fahrenheit or 356 degrees Celsius. We do know that Michael he's got a thing for arson, so he does burn down several establishments. Could this possibly overheat him? Well, fire itself, like a small flame, is around 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit or 600 degrees Celsius just for that small red flame. But what about a room on fire? Say he sets the room on fire and he's leaving, then it's getting hot. A room on fire would be 600 degrees Fahrenheit to around 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit, or 315 degrees Celsius to about 815 degrees Celsius, but this range is gonna be from eye level up. Now, from eye level up, it's probably talking about an average person. It's not gonna be from here up. It's gonna be like from here up. I'm 5 foot, so I'm not a good reference of height. But I'm gonna stand up here like I'm Michael, because this makes me about, I don't know, 5'10". It's kind of nice up here. Look, it is arguable that Michael was not in those fires. He could have GTA'd it, gotten a gasoline can, poured it out, lit the little lighter, and then ran. There's no telling that he was in the building when it was on fire, except for one, FNaF 6. But we will get to that in a second because I do want to address the turning purple argument. Now, there are 5 stages of decay: fresh, bloat, active decay, advanced decay, and dry remains. When we see Michael decaying, he first turns green, which could be argued to be the bloat stage of decay. But what causes the purple color? Well, this is something real in decay, and it's called livor mortis. This is a process when the heart stops beating, that the blood ends up pooling at the lowest parts of the body and turns reddish purple. So if you are a corpse and you are laying on your back, your butt, the back of your legs, everything like that would turn this purple color with your heart not beating anymore. But this does happen pretty quick, about 3 to 6 hours for it to onset, and it usually reaches its peak darkness within a day or so. So knowing this, it does cause some issues for the Michael Afton corpse, because he doesn't turn purple for days. He doesn't turn purple for days, and he turns an all over purple. It's not just in specific spots. So this doesn't line up with decay. Plus, there are a couple other depictions of decay, one of them being rigor mortis, which if you have seen the Addams Family musical, you know this one because it goes like rigor mortis, and then everyone does a little pose. When I was in it, I think I did something because my character had cut their throat or something. I don't know. I had latex and it was all oozing out. Ew. But if you don't know what rigor mortis is, it's basically about a couple of hours after you die, your muscles completely tense up and you go as stiff as a board. So this lasts up to 72 hours. We see Michael, up and roaming and walking around right after the scooping incident, which could be our time of tissue death. So I think these colors could mean something completely different. With the green color, it is a system breakdown. Now, what I'm arguing is that he is M2, which would mean he has robotic mechanical components in him. When these components get oxidized, think of a battery or something like that, you'll get this weird yellowy green film on it whenever those are corroding. Maybe that's what this color is on Michael. Turning purple, I do think this could be more symbolic because he is turning the color of his father, now being imprinted with the trauma his father has caused him.
But Denari, he walks weirdly.
Yes, he does. You are 100% right. He does walk weirdly. So we're gonna go through it. He is walking normal. He's walking normal. He's walking normal. He then gets a little wonky. And then, the final one is he is literally and he looks like Michael Jackson about to hop into the Thriller dance. If you didn't know every dance move by heart on Michael Jackson, The Experience on the Wii, we can't be friends. But what I want to point out with this is after he's purple, falling over and collapses, this is when he's ejecting Ennard. And as soon as Ennard is out of him, he takes a second, recuperates, and then he's able to stand up completely straight again. So this collapsing, decaying movement could have been caused by the robot skeleton inside of him. Now let's talk about FNaF 6 Pizzeria. In this pizzeria, Henry says this job was not meant for you, to Michael. So how did Michael find the job at all? I think before we just thought it was divine intervention, but looking at it through the lens of maybe he's a robot, it would make sense. Henry had built a system to lure in all of the animatronics. There's no reason that that wouldn't affect Michael if he was an animatronic as well. The end of FNaF 6, we know that it ends in this fire that destroys and presumably frees everyone's souls. Maybe this is the case, but obviously they are still around somehow, because it's not just William Afton that always comes back, it's all of them. They're all just perpetually here, and we can't get rid of any of them, but at the same time, they're all becoming robots. So anyway, there's a fire that frees, or whatever you want to believe happens, all of them. Personally, I think they went into the molten MCI, the blob, whatever, and I think if Michael was M2, at this point he would be trapped in this pizzeria, which we know later gets rebuilt with the security breach Pizzaplex built over the FNaF 6 location. So this fire could have possibly started a sinkhole. Everything would need to be underground for, Fazbear Entertainment to level it out and then build this Pizzaplex over it. This leads us to security breach, which I think has the most compelling evidence for all of this. I am going to be jumping over a little all over the place here, so I ask you to bear with me. I hope I make sense. If I don't, you will comment down below and I will try to respond. Okay, so in security breach, we meet Gregory. So Gregory, the first thing you see when you look at him is this crying child? And to those people, to you people who say that Gregory is crying child is David, I have one thing to say to you. You are probably right, and I don't know how I feel about it just yet, but I do believe you are right. I actually have a little bit of a theory that I'm working on that all of the kids are robots, and I will get into that in this video, so just bear with me. How I think that the Gregory, David, Dave connection works is not due to the ending 3 being canon. I believe that it comes along with the I will put you back together again, rebuilt, blah, blah, blah connection. There are great videos out there going far, far, far deeper into it that I just don't care to even go deeper into it. It's beating a dead horse at this point for me. So check him out, like T-Dreads, he's got some great videos. Go check him out, his God David video, 100%. But going back to security breach, our other new main character was Glamrock Freddy. So something was weird with Glamrock Freddy though. He didn't act like the other animatronics. Granted, he was booted in safe mode. He was kind of his own personality and entity. And at the end of security breach, he gets a little hyped on the juice.
Been here before. She brought me here. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I did not want to, but I had no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed. My friends are here. They are so angry, confused. But I can protect you. I am not me.
Now, I thought it was weird that A, he had even been in the basement, but B, that he supposedly found himself in the basement, like he's some sort of college girl that just did shrooms for the first time. Now, one of the biggest things in security breach that I feel like we all just kind of glossed over is the fact that there is the sister location room inside of the Pizzaplex. Now, this also is only accessible behind a 4th closet door. For those of you who haven't read the books and still have your mental sanity, the 4th closet is basically the premise that William Afton steals a Charlie robot from Henry Emily and ends up making it into what we know as Baby. That alone might not be much, but it actually was kind of called again in Ruin with the bioluminescent caves that we go into with Cassie. These are the same caves that we again saw in the 4th closet. So I think it is pointing at us to look at these books a little bit more and connect some dots. Definitely use the series as parallels. Again, not complete evidence. You know how earlier I referenced how David has been with us all along, possibly in the form of Pig Patch? Well, here's one of the reasons I really think that. In Security Breach, we can find this arcade cabinet. And, you know, there are a bunch of weird arcade cabinets, but when I looked deeper at this one, I thought it was interesting. The first thing was Ballora. Now, we don't know too much about Ballora, but the couple of things that we do know is A, she is presumably representing Afton's wife, and then B, she's got some massive...
We'll be right back.
Now, if we did take this as a input for Afton's wife here, and we look at the other three characters on this arcade, we can see that it's Funtime Foxy, Pig Patch, and then a recolored version of Funtime Freddy. So A, what is Pig Patch doing with the Funtimes? And then B, why is Freddy recolored like that? And C, what's Funtime Foxy doing here? What is the relevance of this? I know you're thinking, Denara, you finally lost it. And you're right, I have, but stick with me. Pig Patch has some resemblance to David with the heterochromia and that vanity light that I went over earlier in the video. Now, if we look at the Funtime Freddy, what is this recoloring? Well, this recoloring is actually the coloring we see on the front page cover of the fourth closet. But that leaves us with Funtime Foxy. Well, where do we see Funtime Foxy? We see Funtime Foxy in the first appearance of Elizabeth's room. I believe that this could be showing us the modern day versions of our characters. Again, it is a big stretch, and I know Elizabeth is associated with baby. I understand. It is a big stretch. But I think one of the fun things in theorizing is bringing ideas to the community and all of us theorizing together. We all want to solve this thing, so I'm imploring you, if you've got anything you think could fit with this or debunk it, let me know. With that, again, that means that I'm thinking that maybe there's some David spirit with Pig Patch and Michael is, you know, Freddy now. I don't know. Again, it is a long shot. I just thought it was an interesting thing that I was able to connect. So that would mean that I basically believe that that story of Security Breach is pretty similar to what Matt Pat proposed, except a little bit different. I do think we are reuniting the Afton family, and I actually believe that maybe F10 was a part of that family. If Afton was able to get his hands on the F10 computer, which he would have if he took over the franchise, perhaps that is the stand-in of his wife. I mean, we do have to think about at the table in Security Breach that we find in the sticky note room, the wife is at the head of the table. So she's somehow running the show. Is that because she can control all of the children? Again, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there at this point. You can yell at me in the comments. Actually, please do. It really helps engagement. Actually don't. I'm kind of sensitive and I don't like being yelled at. I do also think this could kind of fit with the photos that we see in the Secret of the Mimic before we go into David's room. We get that photo of M2 and David on the hill. We get that same exact photo with Gregory and Freddy. I think it's really wanting us to link these two together here. But with all of that, that is kind of my unhinged, probably not complete, but unhinged recap of Secret of the Mimic, a little bit into Security Breach and Ruin, but mostly just honing in on Secret of the Mimic and the story I believe we are getting told. What happens after, I'm not fully sure, and I think we need some more information to really conclude, because I can't tell how much of this they truly are retconning or what is a red herring. I'm gonna be honest, I can't tell what to make of it. The one thing that I am pretty sure of is that there is more than one Mimic endoskeleton. There is definitely more than one Mimic, and we are going far more into sci-fi. And I just want to be open and honest real quick. I don't think this franchise is really about possession and the paranormal anymore. I think Scott Cawthon has maybe done a little bit of a bait and switcheroo with us, which is fine, it happens. Like, think about Taylor Swift doing country and then now doing pop. It happens. He grows, his audience grows. I think that we are definitely more into a sci-fi age of AI technology rather than possession and your typical ghost horror. I would not be shocked if it comes out that, oh, well, there's no possession anymore. I wouldn't be shocked. Do I think that's what's happening? Not fully, but I wouldn't be shocked. Now, that is where I'm going to end it for today. I will be doing more FNaF videos in this style, going through different games, possibly different deep dives on theories. If there's anything you want me to cover, let me know in the comments down below. My next video is most likely going to be me doing this style with Kingdom Hearts. Now, if you haven't seen the Kingdom Hearts lore, if you thought this was bad, just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Now, this was a new type of format for me. I haven't really seen this kind of live talk through done too much in the theory community, so I'm hoping you guys liked it. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, also let me know, because I want to make videos that you guys like to watch. But with all of that said, I loved hanging out with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. All right, bye.